I'm late, but it's not my fault. Wirecast's fault. Gonna blame Wirecast. You see, there it is over there. It's got a bug when it's been minimized or it's got other things on the screen covering it up. And then you switch to it, which I had a browser or something on top of it. And then you switch to it. It doesn't appear. You got to go to the taskbar and restore the size of it or something. And then you can get it there. So I was desperately trying to find it so that I could start things up and get the show going. And I got the title up already. You know what they're going to do. You can tell I'm not sitting here with no pants. From the studio, above the garage. No. I had it right last week. And then Julia screwed up hers. By the way, no Julia today. I had it right last week, and then Julia screwed up hers. Do you know how she screwed up hers? Of course, she can make up anything she wants, and I can make up anything I want and say that it's right. But she had made up her introduction to say, from the borderland. And then last week she said the corner. Corner's not as fun as the borderland. Anyway, she's not here. So nobody coming in from the borderland this time. From the studio in the bonus room, that's it, above the garage, on the north side of Cary. Is that it? Studio, bonus room, above the garage, on the north side of Cary. 4 parts. You'd think I could remember. This is the Triangle Talk Show. And this is the point where, well, first of all, I cover my face with the logo. And the audio audience hears some music. Well, the video audience doesn't. And that is changing. Not going to do that anymore. And the reason is that music that I had, that fun music, you can go back and listen to any of the previous podcasts for it. Is unlicensed. I didn't have the rights to use it. And sooner or later, I'm going to make somebody mad. I'm going to let somebody know. So I decided I better not use that anymore. So Google has free music that we creators can use. And give your videos a brand new sound. I'm reading it from their website. With our latest tracks, we've added new copyright-safe songs to the YouTube library. Check it out. Check out the new ones, I guess. And they got sound effects. Oh, let me check a sound effect. We can give you an 18-volt cordless drill, high pitch. Wow. Or 50 caliber shells dropping. Or an A-10 jet flyby and fire. Oh, it says weapons, so I'm going to hear machine guns or something. And this will be perfect for this show. Afternoon crickets. Very quiet crickets. Yeah. I'll keep that one on standby. Okay, so we'll do music. Some of the music, it's all free. Some of it requires putting a note in the YouTube notes that music got used. Some of it doesn't. Some just whatever you want to do. Let me, I'm going to look for stuff that's good for an intro. I had actually picked out a bunch of these and put them on a computer somewhere. And I think it must be the laptop computer, which is not booted up because I couldn't find it. So that's why I'm just kind of shotgunning here from the Google website. And no, I don't know which one of these. I don't know if I'll ever use any of them on a regular basis, but let's check. Whoa, ow. That was loud. I was booted up for the crickets. Yeah, we can do country, and this song is free to use on any of my videos without any credit to anybody whatsoever. It doesn't even say who did it. Well, I guess the 126ers did it, it says here. But they don't want any credit. This one will probably require some credit. Yeah. Boom, boom. Yeah, it's a good little sting thing. If we did interstitial, you know, if we like went from one program element to another. So we finish up a program element, and we'll be back in just a moment. And now I got to tell people. I'm putting it on the screen, but I guess I got to tell people that it's the short guitar clip by Audionautics. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license. And the artist is Audionautics. Audionautics.com. Perhaps you would prefer a piano march. This is another one that I'm going to have to give credit for. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Triangle Talk Show, coming to you from the bonus room above the garage, on the north side of Cary. The studio in the bonus room above the garage, on the north side of Cary. Don't know. Home base groove. Let's try that. Ladies and gentlemen, from the studio above the garage, in the bonus room, on the north side of Cary. I had it practiced by now. This is the Triangle Talk Show. Very mysterious program. Big horns. I don't like big horns. Rock intro. Hey everybody. From the bonus room studio above the garage on the north side of Cary, this is the Triangle Talk Show. Into the wormhole. It's short. Just one big thing. 1940s slow dance. Ladies and gentlemen, from the studio above the bonus room on the north side of Cary. Too short. And I screwed it up again. Ladies and gentlemen, from the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary, this is the Triangle Talk Show. Talk Show. Okay, so something out of this group will show up in the future, and we'll see. Oh, back to the title. Hey, Wirecast showed up again. Episode 24, this is August 16th, 2018. No witnesses, Your Honor. I'm going to tell you a story. Just going to tell you a story. Some other stuff we might talk about, but mostly I'm going to tell you a story. If you've been following the news, you may be aware that in the trial, I think this one's in Virginia, of Paul Manafort, the liberal media likes to say Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort. He was the Trump campaign manager for 60-some days, I think, at the heart of the campaign. And then he got booted out or bailed out or something. Trump says, barely knew the guy. What did he do? That's the way Rachel Maddow does it. Who was he again? What was his name? What did he do? He was here? Did he work for us? Did we pay him? Well, that's the deal. He wanted to work for free. So the question is why he was there, what it was all about. Trump wants to pretend that he didn't do anything, never a part of the deal. And the Mueller investigation is going after him. Got two separate investigations happening about him. And one of them, trial was this week, just went to the jury. Lawyers did their closing arguments yesterday. And the prosecution had a bunch of witnesses. Rick Gates, former number 2 guy for the campaign, and then guy who stuck around during the administration for a while, and who flipped and testified for the prosecution against Manafort, admitting that he even stole money from Manafort. I've been paying attention. I've been listening and reading up a little bit. So he testified, and they had a bunch of other witnesses. The most fun one, I guess, was the guy that ran that bank in Chicago that Manafort was apparently offering to make him Secretary of the Army. It was also an interesting story. If you haven't been following this stuff, it's pretty fascinating. But the prosecution, in their closing comments, mostly wanted the jury to be paying attention to the paperwork. Yeah, I know. We want fireworks. The defense didn't call any witnesses. They just, your turn. No witnesses, Your Honor. The defense rests. I was going to call this program The Defense Rests, but that wasn't the point. The defense could rest after they called witnesses, but they called none. And I've listened to the legal analysts. I guess I've listened to some from the mainstream media, which is only sort of left-leaning, and the left-leaning media, MSNBC, which is pretty left-leaning. And all of their legal analysts pretty much say they think that the case is very strong. Even listening to Preet Bharara, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. I've heard that phrase so many times. I pretty much got that. And he's got a podcast now. He's one of the U.S. attorneys that Trump fired. And he's fairly left-leaning, a little bit left-leaning. Pretty fair guy, I think. But no Trump fan, that's for sure. Anyway, his podcast this week, he was thinking, they presented a pretty good case. He doesn't think that Manafort's going to wiggle out of this one. And apparently, and the speculation was that he could cut a deal up until the very last moment, because kind of want him to flip and provide testimony about, I guess, Trump. Russia stuff mostly. Not what most of this trial was about. It'll probably be what the next one is about. But he never did, so it went to the jury, and the defense called no witnesses. And the analysts have said that's not as unusual as it sounds. Even if you think that the prosecution has a weak case, and that's one of the things that Bharara was talking about. If he thinks the prosecution has got a weak case, then you may be better off calling no witnesses and just pointing out how weak the prosecution's case is. But that's not what they did. And the analysts think the prosecution has a good case in all that pile of paperwork, plus Rick Gates, some of the other guys. They think he's got a good case. So we'll see. The jury could come back tomorrow. I don't think they did today. I don't think I saw any headline, breaking news. They'd have to break into the breaking news because there's always breaking news. But that'll be breaking news when that jury comes back. That'll be real breaking news. So I don't think they came back today. They might tomorrow. It might take a while. We'll see. We're all waiting with bated breath. What I didn't take the time to do was to see what the analysts on Fox News have said. Now, Manafort is not, he is persona non grata in the Trump side of things. The liberal side of things would love to see him hang. And the Trump side of things would probably like to see him hang. So he's a man without a country. There's a couple of other people out there that are people without a country right now. Jim Comey, former FBI director, is kind of hanging to dry because the liberals' left side doesn't like him because he cost Hillary the election, and the conservatives don't like him because you'd think they'd like him because he cost Hillary the election, but then he started the Russia probe. So, and he's definitely no fan of Trump. So nobody likes poor Jim Comey. Full disclosure, I bought his book. And then Omarosa is somebody also without a country. The left kind of likes to hear what she's got to say now, but she spent so much time as a Trump sycophant that they don't give her any credibility. And the Trump side, of course, now that she's dishing dirt, doesn't like her either. So she's also got no place to go for close, warm, sympathetic ears and friendship. I forget how I wormed my way down that rabbit hole. Manafort has got no friends either. So we're waiting for the jury to come back, and the defense called no witnesses. And now I will tell my story. There's me, Gary Pierce. And the story that I've got to tell about a defense that called no witnesses has nothing to do with the Maniford trial. It happened back in 1987 in the Alamance County Courthouse in Graham, North Carolina, just down I-40. I had just finished, a few months before, I had finished my summer-long motorcycle trip. In 1986, I had quit my job in Chicago as a videotape editor. Yeah, we could call it a videotape editor back then because we actually edited on videotape. These days, we dropped the word tape. There's no tape involved anymore. So I'd quit my job as a fairly successful videotape editor. My goal was to get into radio. I wanted to go disc jockey or something. But first, I wanted to take the summer off and go climb on a Honda Goldwing motorcycle and ride around the country. And I started that in May, and I did successfully ride around the country. Left Chicago up to, I think I rode around Lake Superior through Canada, but I might not have done that on that trip. I know I did it on some trip. I might have just gone across the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, down through Michigan. I visited where I grew up in Detroit suburbs, briefly, and then headed east, saw my mom. The last time I saw my mom, the last time I saw my mom coherent. I saw her one more time just before she died, but she was pretty much in a coma at the end of that trip. That was in New Jersey. Jersey? What exit? Down to North Carolina. My dad had retired to North Carolina at that point. Came to visit him. My brother Andy and I rode to Myrtle Beach on the motorcycle. Had drunken debauchery there. And then I headed west and traveled around the west quite a bit. Had a great time. Got as far as Vancouver for the World's Fair. Down the Pacific coast to Los Angeles. And back to North Carolina. I packed everything up in Chicago. I wasn't going back there. Packed everything up, came to North Carolina to stay with my dad for a while I looked for a job in the radio station business. And that got back in September. So I started in May, ended up in September, about 22,000 miles, all but the last couple thousand miles of it, not on interstate highways, U.S. highways, county roads, back roads. No hurry, not trying to get anywhere. There was no Google Maps or anything back then. I had one of those big U.S. Atlas. Don't know if it was Rand McNally or who made it, where you've got a page basically for every state, a couple of pages for the big wide states, some close-up maps in it for cities. And this trip was sort of the national park tour. I hadn't done a lot of planning. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to see or where I wanted to go. So I ended up aiming at what I could see on the map, which is just the big national parks. I think Mammoth Cave. Is Mammoth Cave in Kentucky? I think. Might have been one of the first national parks that I hit after I left North Carolina. I spent some time in Washington, D.C. before I got to Carolina. Washington, D.C. is sort of a big national park. Almost got arrested by the Secret Service outside the White House. 1986, they had started putting up barricades so you couldn't drive a car, crash a car into the White House grounds. And I had my video camera and I was shooting some video. No, I didn't really almost get arrested, but they did come up to me and say, what you doing? Tourist, shooting some video. Okay. Better be careful, boy. They didn't say that. No, they didn't say that. Just, what are you doing? Shooting video. Okay. Shooting video is not illegal. I didn't say shooting video and it's not illegal. Just said shooting video. Don't think I wanted to get into a big conversation because I was probably stoned. Anyway, finished that trip in September. And the goal was then to find a radio station job someplace, which I did, but not until the next April. So just kind of goofing off, living with my dad. This was down in Whispering Pines. Lived on a golf course. I would jog around the golf course every day. I'm not sure I really did anything useful. I mean, I would, every month when Broadcasting Magazine would come out, I would circle all the ads for radio station jobs all over the country. And anything I thought I was halfway qualified for, I would make a tape, custom tape, and send it to them with my resume, which in terms of being a radio station guy was pretty thin. Had a few months in 1970 at a little radio station in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and a couple years in 1972 at an automated station in Lincoln, Illinois, where I made commercials but didn't really spend very much time on the air because it was automated, so all I did was play the commercials. That was my resume. That was my experience for being a disc jockey. And the Sturgeon Bay one I couldn't use that because I was terrible. The one from Lincoln, I was still not very good. So I would send those out, and I really don't remember how else I whiled away my time until I think in March or so, I noticed in the paper that there was going to be a trial. It's going to be in Graham and Alamance County. It's about an hour motorcycle ride, very pretty ride from Whispering Pines, Carthage area. Back roads, none of the big highways went up there. So just kind of winding my way through the back roads to get up there. And so every day was a pretty ride. So I saw this trial in the paper, and I thought, well, it was I think it was North Carolina that was prosecuting, but they had help from the Justice Department in Washington, and they were hauling a company that I'm pretty sure you'll be familiar with into court for pornography, corrupting the morals of the nation. It's Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve had a warehouse in Orange County. They distributed stuff to the nation from the warehouse in Orange County. I'm not sure how they advertised it at that point because, again, no internet, none of this stuff. Well, they can't sell pornography from a store anymore, I don't think. You can get it free on the internet. So they sent out catalogs and stuff. I guess once you found them and you're getting their catalogs, you know what they had. Maybe they advertised in newspapers or magazines or something. I'm sure there was that stuff out there. So I think it was the Reagan administration time. Got hauled into court. The warehouse had been raided. And this was probably within a couple weeks before the trial started. And they are charged with obscenity. I don't remember what the exact charges were. Do I have? Yeah, I think I got something here. Yeah, okay. I'm looking at a website, the Charlotte Observer. This is from 2014. And the headline says, Adam and Eve survived obscenity charges and protests to become mainstream. So it's an article from 2014, but they have a quick paragraph about what happened in 1987. The guy that ran the company was Phil Harvey. And this says, Harvey went to trial in Alamance County in 1987 for disseminating obscenity. If you're writing a history of North Carolina's most surprising trials, put this one on your list. The jurors watched 6 hours of porn flicks, deliberated only about an hour. Well, I'm spoiler alert, they acquitted him. The lawyers didn't even mount a defense. So that's the thing. I went up there. The trial ran for several weeks. I sat and kind of got to know, there were reporters there, of course, from the News and Observer and from the newspaper in Burlington, probably from Winston-Salem. And I got to chat with them at lunch and got to know them. And they were kind of wondering, I took notes. My goal was to kind of get myself ready for this incipient career in media of some kind. I wasn't going to write for a newspaper, but I didn't know what I was going to be doing. Playing the hits at a radio station was most likely, but I had been in line potentially for doing a talk show in Peoria. Will it play in Peoria? Something I had applied for and interviewed at. And got a feeler that, yeah, we'd like to hire you. But This was just before taking that motorcycle trip, and I wanted to take the motorcycle trip. So I turned it down. Oh, would my life be different if I hadn't turned that down? This was about the time Rush Limbaugh was kind of just getting his feet wet in Sacramento. I could have been the next Rush Limbaugh. Well, I could have been the liberal Rush Limbaugh, and then the whole world would be different today. Do you believe all that? Got a bridge to sell you. So I went up there and I started attending the trial. I got there from, I think, day one, maybe day two. No, it was day one. They were in jury selection. And I haven't spoiled everything. Because, yeah, they were acquitted, but you won't believe how. So I went up there for jury selection. Joe Cheshire, who is a pretty famous attorney in North Carolina, defense attorney, I think he's still going. He may have retired by now. Because he wasn't an old man at that point, but he was, a middle-aged guy. And that's a long time ago now. 30 years. So Joe Cheshire was one of the two defense lawyers, and they were interviewing the potential jury members. And I don't remember exactly what they were asking, but most of the jury members got a 10, 15-minute interview. I know one of the things that they asked, and the key thing that they asked, and I'll kind of give away the end here, is, you watch any pornography? Most of them did. Do you know if your neighbors do? No, I don't know. Do you ever talk to them about it? No. Talk about it around the dinner table? No. So, but you watch some now and then. Oh, once in a while. I have. I probably don't anymore, but I have. If Julia were here, she'd be making some snide comments that would push the explicit button, but she's not here. Julia, she's going to wish you were in this conversation. So she's out helping her folks buy a car. Got important family business to do. Family comes first. Okay, so you don't talk to anybody about it. Pornography? Are you kidding? No. Church? Talk about it at church? No. I don't remember if they asked that specific question. I made a lot of notes, and I remembered that I made the notes when I was grabbing a Sammy before I came down here to push the go button. And I have no idea where they are. They're around here somewhere in the drawer. Should have picked them up. So, don't really remember what else they asked, but I know they asked about those things. And then they got their jury. And they started the trial. They described the raid on the warehouse in great detail. They had some examples of the sex toys that they sell. The one that I remember. Please don't judge me. The one that I remember is the foot-long double dong. And I still don't think I have to push the explicit button. But I probably will anyway, because I may swear before the end of the episode. They, as the article had said, they showed a bunch of videos. They did that all in one day. The whole trial was probably 2 weeks, maybe a third week for the jury selection. I remember the prosecutor talking about this hardcore pornography that they were accused of disseminating at Adam and Eve. And I don't remember whether members of the jury actually laughed when the prosecutor said that, he probably, I don't know how many times he used that phrase. He certainly used it in the closing arguments. But probably used it a few other times too. Hardcore pornography. Well, they described the raid. They showed the foot-long double dong and probably a bunch of other things. And then one day, the reporters and this didn't attract a great big audience, gallery. Didn't have any problem finding a seat. I don't think the reporters had their own special area. I think that the courtrooms are set up like church pews, and I don't know, might have been 5 or 6 or 7 rows, and they weren't full typically. So I think that they announced that the next day we were going to see some of the videos that they seized. I think that the gallery was a little more full that day, but I get there early, so I still didn't have any trouble getting a seat. And they wheeled in some monitors. They pasted paper over the windows. Well, I don't think there were windows, but there were glass panels in the doorways. And they papered over them so people couldn't look in. And they made sure that there weren't any underage people in the audience, the gallery. And they made sure that nobody in the gallery, they made sure that everybody was aware of what they were going to be seeing. You know, the hardcore pornography. So that anyone with more delicate sensibilities would be able to leave and not have to subject themselves to it. Now, I'm trying to think if they told us that if we decided to stay, we had to stay and couldn't come and go. I vaguely remember something like that. I wish I'd brought my notes out. Anyway, they wheeled some monitors in. This was the era of VHS, no DVDs back then. So they had the VHS machine. I think they had 2 big TV sets on rolling carts. Would have been hard for everybody to see one TV, even if it was a big one. Of course, this was also well before giant flat screen TVs, and I don't even know if they could have projected video back then. Don't know if that technology had come around, but we had big TVs and VHS. So they started playing them, this hardcore pornography. And we saw the relatively, now I'm not an expert in hardcore pornography, but I've seen a pornographic video or 2 in my life. And these were fairly typical of what I understand to be fairly typical pornographic videos. And I'm sure that those kind of videos run a gamut that is wider than what I'm familiar with. Because these videos did not run a gamut of what I am wider than what I'm familiar with. They were all the same formula. A couple of hot young women, maybe just one hot young woman at her house, and the mailman arrives, the pizza delivery guy arrives, the washing machine repairman arrives. Didn't have any policemen arrive. They waited for the policemen until they raided the warehouse. And there's a little bit of awkward dialogue because these people are not good actors, and then pretty quickly everybody's got their clothes off and they're having sex. And then there's no dialogue at all. Just noise. And that goes on for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 minutes. And they're done. And I forget what happens after that point. And they had, 4, 5, 6 of those? Again, the milkman arrives, There's no milkman even by then. Mailman arrives, the washing machine repairman, the pizza delivery guy. They're all the same. And then we were done. You can make your own jokes now about everything else that might have transpired. I don't think anybody fainted. I don't think anyone got the vapors in the audience. I think what we all realized was that we were not watching hardcore pornography. We were watching softcore pornography. Gentle, pleasant, I guess. Probably fairly high production values for the genre at the time. People on screen having sex. No animals. No. Don't know that there was even any, S&M, sadism and masochism. I don't think there was any. There might have been a pair of handcuffs in there somewhere. Not sure. But it was definitely your softcore pornography. And all the rest of the books and toys and pictures and stuff that they brought in, pretty much all the same. The industry gets nastier than that by a lot. I don't know if the prosecutors knew that, and their consultants from Washington. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they knew that. I don't know why they went after this pretty much family-friendly mom and pop pornography. Maybe because Adam and Eve was a pretty big company and there would have been quite a score. They could put them out of business. I don't remember much more about what happened. I don't know where the video was. I think it was pretty close to the end of the trial. It might have even been the last day before the summation, the final comments from prosecution and defense. So the prosecution would have called their last witness and arrested somewhere along there. And it was time for the defense to call their witnesses. And they didn't. Mr. Cheshire, do you have any witnesses? No, Your Honor, the defense rests. That did come as a surprise. We were all kind of, huh? What? Thought you'd have plenty to say about this. But, no, they arrested. Oh, good. I just got confirmation that I've got a guest for tomorrow morning. Got to answer that in a little bit. This will be interesting. I've been working on getting this guest for a while. And normally we'd try to bring him in the evening and do a show in the evening. He's only going to be available tomorrow morning. This will be my first name guest, and he'll have an interesting name. And it looks like we'll be going 9:30 or 10. I don't know. I don't think I'll do this on YouTube Live. I think I'm going to just put it in the can and bring it into the show on maybe Sunday night. Thursday is the night I'm trying to make for the show, and then Sunday is sort of the second night that we'll try to squeeze them in. So this is someone. Well, I know you're going to be familiar with the name. I can guarantee you'll be familiar with the name. You may not be familiar with why you know the name. If you've been watching politics in North Carolina for a while, you'll know who I'm talking about, and you might have already said, Well, this is interesting, considering who I am doing this show. I teased you enough, and you won't believe what happens next. Okay, so cool. Looks like he's going to come over here and be in the studio. So wrap this up and answer his email. So the defense said no witnesses, Your Honor. The defense rests. Surprise. Okay. Closing arguments. The prosecution puts on their clothes. You've been watching all this hardcore pornography. You've heard the descriptions of everything that we found at the warehouse, all of this stuff that is definitely not North Carolina family values. And you've seen the video. The shocking, disgusting, hardcore pornography video. I apologize for making you all sit through this, even though the only people that had to sit through it was the jury. I guess he's talking to the jury anyway. Apologize, but we just had to do it. You had to see what this was. I know you're shocked. Shocked. Joe Cheshire got up. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't do this word for word because it was 30 years ago and I haven't looked at my notes. Ladies and gentlemen, when we interviewed you for the jury, we asked all of you very specifically if you had seen any pornography, and most of you had, and if you had ever talked to anybody about it. And none of you had. Didn't discuss it with your family. You didn't discuss it with your neighbors. You didn't discuss it at church. You didn't discuss it at school, at work. It was private. You don't know what your neighbors, what your community considers to be hardcore pornography. You don't know what they consider any of this to be. You haven't talked about it. And what Adam and Eve is charged with, what the obscenity statutes require you to find, is that this material violates contemporary community standards. I think I've got the legal language close to being right there. You're being charged with determining whether or not they have violated your community standards. And in your interview, when we were impaneling the jury, we asked you if you had talked to anybody about this, and you had not. And so you don't know what your community standards are. You don't know what your neighbors think. You haven't asked them. You haven't talked to them. You don't know what your coworkers think. You don't even know what your family thinks. Because you told us you don't talk about it. And if you don't know what the contemporary community standards are, then you can't find Adam and Eve and Phil Harvey guilty of having violated them. Because you don't know what they are. So we're sitting there in the audience going, good point. I don't know if that's what the jury took into consideration, if that was the thing that they weighed most heavily when they went into their deliberations. And I think they deliberated for like 3 hours. They came back pretty quick, same day, with their not guilty verdict. I don't know if that's what turned the trick, or they just were just going, what? Hardcore pornography? That's not hardcore pornography. Adam and Eve is practically mom and pop. Yeah, it's sex. But it's not sex. It's just sex. Calm down, Reagan administration. Flunky. Coming down to North Carolina. Now, this was in Alamance County. Probably nestled snugly in the buckle of the Bible Belt. But the jury they impaneled was not Bible thumping. I mean, I'm sure everybody, was religious, believed in God and stuff like that, but and they probably not a lot of liberals among them, but they were people that just looked at this stuff and said, nah, this is not terrible stuff. We're not going to send anybody to jail for this. So 3 hours, they came back and they acquitted. No witnesses, Your Honor. The defense rests. Now, what has that got to do with the Paul Manafort trial? Absolutely nothing. Is it a predictor? Am I trying to suggest that in the Manafort trial they arrested without calling any witnesses? And maybe that was a brilliant scheme because, hey, it worked in Graham, North Carolina in 1987 for a hardcore pornography case. No, I'm not suggesting that at all. I don't think that they're even aware. It's not a frequent thing, but it happens. According to the legal, the people that the consultants that they're getting on the TV shows, it happens. No, they're pretty much not expecting Manafort's going to get away with it. And was I mentioning? I think I was that I have not followed Fox News to see what they're saying. See if their legal consultants agree. And I don't think I can make that call. Because again, Manafort is persona non grata there too. So probably everyone wants to see him hang. Their big thing, if I had watched, I would guess their big thing is to spend more time talking about how he was not really a deep, integral part of the campaign. And oh, by the way, Manafort's Mueller's running a witch hunt. So, the Manafort thing, that's just it's a distraction. Nothing to do with Trump and the campaign, and it's a witch hunt, and there's no collusion. That's my story. I got to go answer my guest for tomorrow. Wait till he sees this. This is somebody who is used to the big TV studios, WRAL and WTVD, WNC, probably even WNCN. I mean, I'm only listing them late because they're kind of also ran from the news department. It's got a statewide reputation, got a national reputation. I'm looking forward to talking to him. So, it should be interesting. Maybe give me a little bit of credibility, but wait till he sees this studio. He's slumming. There's a reason why he is going to be slumming himself on the Triangle Talk Show. It is not because we are the preeminent high-level thinkers and astute political commentators of podcasts in the area. There are people who know what they're talking about. All I do is kind of bloviate a little bit. But there's a reason why he'll be here. And you'll find out when you listen to that show. I haven't decided if I'm going to push the YouTube live button tomorrow or not. I'll probably give him that option. And maybe we will. But 9:30 or 10 o'clock somewhere. I guess probably about 10 o'clock. So I got to get up early. Usually don't get up that early. And now I got to go down to the train and pick up my lovely wife, who is riding the train back up from Charlotte. I think we'll go get a slice of pizza. And I'll try to get some sleep. I may be too excited with my guest. It's going to be fun. It's going to be worthwhile, too, because the conversation that we'll have will be something that I think you'll be interested in hearing what he's got to say. We're not going to break any news. I doubt we'll break any news, but we may have some interesting stuff. I tried very hard to get him to get out of the mode that people in politics will get into when they're in a talk show, which is just to give the stump speech. He's not running for anything, so he never has run for anything. He's not a politician, but he may have canned things that he will talk about, and I'll try to work past that. Skilled interviewer that I am. Oh boy, am I over my head. I am so over my head. No witness, Your Honor. Episode 24, August 16th, 2018, The Triangle Talk Show. I am this guy, Gary Pierce. Snowflake. Oh, by the way, that title, that's a clue. That's a clue. Pay attention to that. And I will maybe see you tomorrow, maybe be a few days before it comes on. Over and out. Dinner's coming up.